When you start, you create content to make money. And in the end, you make money to create content. What determines if you're ready to make the switch is how much attention you hold. This video is for people who are lost in their content creation journey. That was me. For months, I was lost trying to figure out the meaning behind my creations. It felt like I was just throwing random information out into the ether, which is necessary to introduce people to you and your content. But what I came to find out was that there was 3 problems that I was going to face. First is you end up being a slave to the algorithm by chasing views. Because on short form platforms like Instagram, it is no myth that views equal sales. The more people you can reach means the more sales you'll make, which is the entire concept of conversion rates. If you reach 100 people and 1% of them buys your stuff, then you make 1 sale. If you reach 1 million people and 1% of them buys your stuff, then that's 10,000 sales, which is cool and all, but you end up spending so much time trying to figure out how to go viral that you can't ever really focus on creating a genuine connection with your audience, because you have to focus on fulfillment and all those other things that come with it too. Which leads us to problem number 2. In some cases, I was spending over 40 hours creating single short form videos. Most of that time was spent creating the viral scripts that are necessary to have high performing videos, and the rest of it was spent doing fancy edits, and I am by no means an editor, so that took so much time trying to keep my content up to par of what was performing well and converting to sales on Instagram. Spending so much time actually creating the content to get the customers inevitably led to me having a decreased quality of actual work that I was delivering, which led to decreased satisfaction and made it really hard for me to get referrals. And therefore, I was just locked in the constant loop of having to create more content to get more customers, because the customers that I had weren't bringing me any more, as they should if you were delivering a good product to people. Third is, because of the way Instagram's algorithm works, only 10% of your followers can actually see your reels. Therefore, you get stuck in a cycle of creating shallow content that introduces new people to your brand. For some people, this isn't a problem, but for me, it was, because I wanted to be able to share the depth of knowledge that I had with the world. And with the short form content, I just simply wasn't able to do that because it wouldn't have performed and brought me more clients. Attention is like modern money. Because people spend so much time on social media these days, you need to convince them to spend their attention on you like they would spend their money on you. This is where the engineering of viral videos comes in, because you're figuring out how to earn as much attention as you possibly can. But here's the biggest problem with short form content. Your input is forever tied to your output, and you're at the mercy of the algorithm forever. If you're on or thinking about starting your entrepreneurial journey, one of the biggest motivators is going to be to escape the slavery of the modern world and jobs. Don't leave your 9-to-5 just to get a new 9-to-5, constantly trying to please the social media algorithms. It's unfulfilling and probably never ending, but it doesn't have to be. Everything changes when you recognize short form content as a necessity to introduce people to your true depth and knowledge. Think about your audience like customers. Anytime somebody views your videos, they're spending their attention on you. For the sake of this example, we'll call those attention points. 1 short form video, or 15 seconds, is equal to 1 attention point. If you are consistent and your short form content functions well and earns followers, the average lifetime value of a customer might be 100 attention points. Any good entrepreneur would look at this and say, how can I make that lifetime value increase even more? Because in the real world, the more attention you earn, the more you and your ideas will live in people's minds. And the more you're on people's minds, the more likely they'll be to buy your products or services in the future. Here, I like to bring up the example of the stranger versus the mentor. The stranger reaches out to you offering a certain service with a certain set of promised results. Your mentor does the exact same thing with slightly different methods, but ultimately has the same result. If you are weighing the positives and negatives of both of these services, which one are you more likely to choose? Most people would say they would choose the one from the mentor, and that's because you've spent more time with your mentor and you know them on a personal level. Therefore, you spent more attention on them, and that attention has been put forward in good faith and ultimately will probably result in you buying their service over the strangers. So now you know that attention is vitally important in online business. Now let's talk about how you can increase your attention from the baseline of a traditional short form brand that everybody has these days. Everybody is familiar with the concept of marketing funnels, but nobody is familiar with the concept of attention funnels. The only way that you can stand out and make money in a saturated information market is to make your short form content so brutally good that it stops people right in their tracks. You then take those attention leads that have been generated from the short form content and funnel them into real long form content where they can be introduced to your true depth. If your message really resonates with just 1 in 10 people, then you stand to increase your total attention points tenfold. Think about that. Keep in mind here that, like we illustrated in the stranger mentor example, that in the real world, attention equals trust and therefore equals money. So the significance of this is profound when it comes to results. Now quickly, I want to knock down a common objection here, and that is long form content takes forever to make. And aren't I better set just trying to tap into people's desires and sell them the dream with short form content? First off, it really doesn't take that long to create long form content. If you have the right systems like I've developed, you spend maybe 1 hour a day, 5 days a week creating that content, which is substantially higher leverage than the short form content that you'd spend that same amount of time on. And side note, these systems that I'm talking about are taught in my education program, Evolutionary Edge. If you want to take a look, the link is in the description. And by all means, Instagram is a fantastic thing to use to get rich quick, but there are 2 huge problems. First off, with the saturation that's come with the online course community recently on Instagram, there is a massive diminishing trust. It seems like every video that I see that is educating about something and promoting a course, there's going to be either one of 2 things. First is people trolling the mini chat bots, aka the chat automations in the chat, or people just calling it an outright scam. And this does come from a lack of perspective, but I understand. If so many people are doing the exact same thing, it must be a scam, right? And there is no possible way that one person, including myself, can completely shift public opinion from one side to the other, so you just need to adapt and improve. Second, and which should be obvious at this point, is that it isn't sustainable because there's simply not enough attention on short form social media. The lifetime value of an audience member on average would be roughly 100 attention points, whereas on long form platforms, that lifetime value on the low end can be 1,000 attention points. And on the top end, somebody that binges your content every day because they love your ideas so much, it could be up to 100,000, million. The ceiling is endless here. Okay, so let's break down attention funnels. How do you get people from short form content to long form content? What long form content performs best as a second step in your attention funnel? And how do you turn those high attention leads into paying customers? First off, to move people into your attention funnel or move them from the short form to the long form, you need to treat the introduction to the long form like promoting a lead magnet. For those that don't know what a lead magnet is, it's basically just a free resource that people give away when trying to sell people into something. So it gets them in there at a much higher conversion rate than they would if they were just directly selling something. It increases the trust and then eventually gives them a call to action at the end of the lead magnet telling them to buy, to get more, or whatever. Long form content, in a sense, is the exact same thing as a lead magnet, and that's why you need to treat the introduction like introducing a lead magnet. The only difference between the two is that long form content gives and keeps on giving, unlike a lead magnet. If you keep consistent with long form content, it's technically like putting out a lead magnet every single week if that is your chosen frequency. So what that does is it gets dramatically more attention, increases trust at a much higher level, and therefore much increases your odds of converting more people to paying customers in the future. Now, at the end of your short form content, you should be given some sort of call to action. This is a key concept in content formatting. Since we are shifting our focus from getting people into a lead funnel or a marketing funnel and instead trying to earn as much attention as possible, I suggest you change your key CTA to just follow for more, obviously adapting that in a way that is beneficial to the viewer, so you increase the conversion rate of following. What that does is it gets people in the door at a very low commitment threshold and gives them the chance to view all of your promotions in the future. As a side note, next week I'm going to be breaking down the short form content strategy that I use to gain dramatically more attention on those platforms than you would just using the traditional heavily edited influencer type videos. So subscribe to stay tuned for that next week. Next, real content, REAL content, is the foundation for building the trust that's necessary to convert attention into customers or sales, money, etc. Real content stands for repeatable, educational, authentic, legacy building content. Repeatable meaning your content needs to contain a core group of philosophies or ideas that repeatedly hits on your target audience's pain points and introduces them to your solution. It needs to center around the problem that your product or service solves, and it also needs to introduce new people and get them ready to receive your solution. Education hits on two levels. First is short form and then in long form. The focus of your short form content should be to make people aware of their problem and provide surface level solutions. On the other hand, your long form content should show people the true depth of their problem and dive deep into a holistic solution or solutions. When it comes to solutions, don't teach how to do, teach how you do. Bring your own personal interests into your solution. For example, I'm a professional athlete, a mountain biker, and sometimes I talk about mountain biking because I've used my solutions to solve a whole bunch of big problems in my life as an athlete, but I've also used it to solve other things, which I talk about as well. Use stories to build the social proof that's necessary and describe how your solutions helped you in your own personal circumstances. It makes you seem human, which is super big in a world filled with content that feels robotic and repetitive by anybody's standard. And you don't need to speak to a specific person. Your content should be broad enough that people can take the lessons and apply it to their own unique personal circumstances. I made this mistake personally for a very long period of time, and in the end, it really only ended up hindering my growth in the long term. Finally, your content needs to be legacy building. Make your content library bingeable and name your methods and solution to create novelty and shareability between people to pass it on. Beyond that, long form content is significantly more legacy building than short form content because it can exist forever. If somebody comes along 10 years after you start posting content, they can still become a dedicated fan, because if you've posted a video a week and for a year, and each video is 30 minutes long, then that's 26 hours of content that that person can binge. That's weeks and weeks of attention that you can earn. Create a practical attention funnel using these methods and it'll work for you. Don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be rocket science. Mine is laid out on a single sheet of paper. It's really that simple. And just as a little bit of a personal testimony here, I spend 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, creating attention focused content, and I make more than I did when I was spending 40 hours plus per week creating these mastermind, hyper engineered reels. Not to mention that I can use that time that I earn back to focus on other high leverage tasks or actually just get out and enjoy life. Now that is it for this one. If you would like to check out Evolutionary Edge, which is my private mentorship program where I teach you the systems I use to work less, earn more, and get ahead of the wave of people that are going to inevitably catch on to real content, hit the first link in the description. Other than that, if you would like to spend more attention productively, you can check me out on all the other platforms, again, linked in the description. I will see you all next week.